Hey everybody, and welcome back to Warhammer Weekend Times. I'm your host Stan, and today I've got a video that's a little bit of a different nature for you guys. This is going to kind of outline some of the changes that we're going to see in the 1.5 patch, but it's mostly going to be centered around the changes in the era system and the multiplayer lobby that we're going to have available to us. But before I start, I wanted to give a big thank you to the mod developers. You guys have done a phenomenal job at the beginning of the end times, and the amount of dedication and hard work you guys put into this mod really reflects in the quality of content you guys have produced. So I just want to say thank you all, and I also want to thank everybody who watches these videos and who have subscribed to my channel. You guys are awesome, and y'all have given me some really good positive feedback on my videos and my battle replay so far. And so long as y'all are enjoying them, I will keep putting them out. So I just want to say thank you guys as well. But now that we've got over the mushy stuff, let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of this video. But we'll go ahead and make a lobby, and I'll go ahead and kind of explain the era system a little bit. But down here we have auxiliary availability, which is basically eras that you kind of see in the that you would see in the vanilla game. We've got core troops, additional forces, core plus mercenary, and all. And the last two are kind of what we have available right now in 1.01. But then we've got core troops and additional forces. Core troops is kind of self-explanatory. It's pretty much the native roster that faction would have. So you don't really see like this huge amount of mercenaries. There's really no mercenaries in the core troop era. So you won't see any mercenaries in the Reikland roster anymore, or anything like that. So that's the one we're going to kind of be focusing on today. And then as soon as we start the lobby up, you guys are probably going to notice some changes immediately. First of all of the Empire factions are going to be available to play, including Dogs of War, and I know a lot of people are excited about that. And the background has gotten a little bit of a facelift. There's a nice kind of border now to each team, kind of each player, you know, little slot over here. It's a lot easier on the eyes. You no longer have to kind of squint to see how much money Team 2 has. But we're going to go ahead and look at Reikland first, guys, because I'm sure a lot of people are most familiar with that roster anyway, and so we can kind of see some of the changes that have happened. But as soon as we start it up, we'll notice there's a much smaller selection of cav. Reikland is pretty much going to have what Reikland would have rather than what it would have as the Empire. So you've got Reiksguard Knights, you've got Reiksguard Knights Bodyguard. I think all of the factions for the Empire get Inner Circle Knights, and then Griffins are going to be specific to Reikland. Now all factions also get Demigriff Knights as well, so they're going to have quite a bit of cav options, and they still get the Pistoliers, and then Outriders, and then all factions also get Hunters of Sigmar, so we might see this cav a little more often, especially in some of the Empire factions that may not have as many options for cav. But one of the other things that we may notice is that there are no dismounted Reiksguard units. They're technically not a tabletop unit, so they're not going to be in the core troop availability. Now, if you still want to play with them, I think they're still going to be in like the all section or the additional forces section. So you may see them there, but you know, I think they're still going to be still in the game, just not available in the core roster. This is going to be kind of more true to what tabletop has available. But we do have Outdoor Company of Honor, and that's going to be specific to Reikland, as well as the Carroburg Greatswords, and of course their nightly order units, and then the Griffins. But that's pretty much is all what Reikland has that the other units or the other factions won't have. But then let's take a little look at Wissenland. Their units are a little bit, you know, pretty much all the Empire factions are going to be a bit smaller. Wissenland does still have the Great Cannon, so they're going to have another artillery unit that the other factions may not. They do still have the Stern Tower Marksmen. They've got some Nuln Guard, and then Grendel's Defenders. So they've got a few units that kind of separate them. I do think, in my opinion, the Nuln Guard have some really cool-looking halberds. They do have also for the Knightly Orders, Knights in Carmine, Inner Circle Knights, Knights of the Blazing Sun. So some really cool units there. Take a look at Averland. I think they have a few. Oh yeah, they've only got one specific unit. They got the Averland Heavy Halberdiers, and I think that's about it for the Averland Cav. They've got Knights of the Blazing Sun, and then Knights of the Gold Lion, and then, you know, Inner Circle Knights and Demigriff Knights, which are going to be universal across all the Empire factions. And I do know the Conqueror Steam Tanks are supposed to have specific kind of paint jobs based on what sub-faction they're coming from, so we may see kind of a black and gold Conqueror Steam Tank come from Averland rather than kind of the white and gold one or kind of white and red one we may see from Reikland. So there's going to be a little variation of that. Stirland, I think, actually has the most amount of individual or faction-specific units out of the Empire. They've got some Hellhunters, Redeemers, some Stir River Patrol Halberdmen, and then some Scarlet Guard. I think that's what it says. And then I think they've got some Deathjacks and then Stir River Patrol. So it looks like almost like 3 unique kind of spear halberd units, and then 2 unique bowman units. And then for Cav, Stirland's got some Knights of the Raven, which are actually a bow cav, which I think is the only bow cav that any of the Empire factions get. And then Knights of the Raven Bodyguard, which only come in half a unit. I think they are gunpowder units, even though they say Knights armed with bows. I'm not sure. I haven't brought him into the game yet, but they do have a higher missile damage, so that's what I expect that. And he also looks like he's holding a pistol. But they've also got Knights of the Gold Lion, and then the other 2 standard cav units for Empire. But let's take a look at Middenheim. They've got some really cool stuff. They've got Teutonic Guard, here it is, yeah, which is just crazy. It's basically dismounted Knights of the White Wolves, 11 attack, 15 defense, and 13 charge. Really deadly unit. Midland also gets the Swords of Ulrich, which is a little more offensive Empire Swordsman unit. I think you only bring 1 of them before they get more expensive. I don't think there's much else. They do get Knights of the White Wolf, which is arguably the best offensive cav that any of the Empire factions get. And then Knights Panther as well, which is a very quick cav unit. I think they outpace a lot of the heavy cav units, but they're a little slower than some of the light cav, like Pistolers and Outriders. But that's pretty much going to be it for Middenland. Talabecland, I think, only has 2 specific units. They got Talabecland Swordmasters, which are kind of just a more defensive swordsman unit, and then Horned Hunters, which look really cool. Kind of these guys with this kind of like, deer horns and a big 2-handed axe. Very low armor, though, so very vulnerable to missiles. We're going to be kind of careful with them, but I don't think that's... I think that's all they get specifically. They do have Blazing Sun Knights and then Knights Panther for their cav, they're specifically, but I don't think there's anything else that kind of distinguishes Talabecland other than the Swordmasters and the Horned Hunters. Let's take a look at Ostland. I think there's only about 2 units in Ostland that are specific. You've got Ostland Blackguard, which are, I think, a little bit better than, or maybe on par with the Carroburg Greatswords, and then we got the Ostland Spearmen, which actually have a pretty high defense at 13. And one big change that is happening, and this is kind of more of a technical change, this may not mean a whole bunch to a lot of people. Oh, there are also Firelocks for Langen, which are a very, very strong gunner unit. But like I was saying earlier about the Spearmen, is Spear Wall is now a thing that you can give one-handed spearman unit. So it's something that you previously could not. You could only really give it to pike units or to halberd units. But now the fact that they can get spear wall means they're going to be able to sit in a much more appropriate formation for spearmen and kind of hold that position a little better. But I think that's about it for... Oh, and Knights of the Bull, I think, are specific to Ostland as well. I don't think any other Empire factions can field this cav, but I don't think they're particularly, anything unique about them stat-wise. Other than, they're just kind of a cool knightly order. We have Ostermark here. I think these have got a couple units. They got the Death's Head, which is a pretty good halberd unit. Got 11 defense, which is pretty strong, but as soon as you take it, they get more expensive very quickly. A lot of these kind of faction-specific units, you can only really bring 1 of, and then they start to get more expensive. You can always bring more, but you do have kind of a diminishing returns, and that kind of has to do more with whether or not you think that it'll be worth it, because sometimes they definitely are. I've seen some range units really make a huge impact. For their knightly orders, though, for Ostermark, we've got the Blackguards and more, and then Inner Circle Knights. So very few cav options really for Ostermark, and only having 1 specific halberd unit is, doesn't really leave Ostermark as something I would probably play as. I'm not really ripping on Ostermark, guys, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it doesn't have a lot in terms of unique units. Hochland, on the other hand, does kind of. He's got the Drakewald Patrol, which is a pretty good halberd unit, but then it's got these Hochland Marksmen, which are absolutely crazy. They've got missile damage of 12, 1,500 gold, and I think you can take 2 of them before they get more expensive, and they only increase by 250. But one thing I do need to kind of I guess, reinforce, guys, is a lot of the price changes that you guys may notice might be subject to change. And so same thing for stat-wise. If you notice like a stat is like way high, like these may experience a price change or maybe a adjustment. Only 4 defense is not a lot. It makes them very vulnerable. They are kind of expensive to take, but they are an extremely good marksman unit. But yeah, and then they got Knights in Carmine and then Knights Panther. But what I was saying earlier is that some of these balance changes have not been implemented yet, so everything is kind of TBA on whether or not this is going to make it to the final cut of 1.5. So, but anyway, guys, that's Hochland. Let's take a look at Nordland. They actually have a few unique units. They've got the Nordland Marines, which are really good. They've got I think they fire a pistol before, it says javelins, but I think it's a pistol they fire before they charge in. There are also the Sons of Manan, which, taking out the dismounted Reiksguard, kind of leaves these guys in a really strong heavy infantry position. 1,600 gold to take 2 before they get too expensive. Really good unit. They've got, can make a shield wall, 20 defense, 8 attack, and 8 charge. Pretty good all-around stats, especially considering they're only 1,600. And then there are the Nordland heavy crossbowmen, which are specific to Nordland. Looks like they've even got like kind of a buckler shield right there, so that would be really cool if they did have a shield block chance. There are Sons of Manan bodyguard, which do only come in half a unit, and then Inner Circle Knights and Demigriff Knights. So Nordland doesn't really have anything going for it in terms of knightly orders. It's only got the kind of the base, what Empire really gets, the Inner Circle Knights and the Demigriff Knights. I think having the Sons of Manan, that might be why you can bring 2 of them, and they're not super expensive in the first place. So you may build kind of more of a heavy infantry / crossbow build with, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing, is all these changes to the Empire factions is going to really make new metas emerge. I mean, we're not going to see this kind of, someone bringing some, like 2 units of ogres and then 3 high elf archers and then some dwarf units. I mean, those are going to be kind of, that's going to be more of the mercenary era kind of deal. We're not going to see that too much in these native rosters anymore. Now, Dogs of War obviously is the exception because it is a mercenary faction, and even though technically no mercenaries, these are going to be native to their roster. They get trebuchets, which are going to be scary, absolutely terrifying. They do have a lot of cav options. They've got some giants. They've got some raiders. I mean, just a lot of stuff. But one thing that I do want to bring to attention is that, like, once you take like 1 unit of Regiment of Renown, the price is going to increase more than they do currently. Like right now, it's 1,400 and goes up to 1,650. They're going to increase about by 1,000 for each one. So it's really kind of implied that these regiments of Renowned, you really only want to bring 1 of them. So if you're playing Gods of War, you're going to kind of have a very varied army, lots of kind of different unit types, like Knights of Arregio, Kirsch Company, Richter Kruger. See, this is kind of how it'll be. Like, this is a 1,500 gold unit, and it doubles in price when you take 1. And that's kind of what you might expect to see with more of the mercenary units. And even in, like, the mercenary, like, eras, you're going to see that. Once you take 1 mercenary type unit or a named mercenary unit like Harboss or Archers, once you take 1 of those, they're going to increase significantly by price. So we're going to see less of a reliance on some of those stronger merc units and more of a reliance on the core rosters. But that's pretty much most of the human factions. Let's take a look at Kislev, because they were also a faction that had very high merc, a very big merc roster, and you can see they're much smaller. Kislev's native roster is a lot smaller than it is when you have mercenaries, but that's not to say you can't make a very deadly army out of these. The Sons of Ursun are incredible. Tsar's Guard are pretty good. They're very cav-oriented in terms of what you should bring as Kislev. What else? Also, for the Orcs and Goblins, this is one thing I also wanted to reiterate too. You only have like 1 unit of Night Goblin Archers. It's pretty much the only Night Goblin unit now in the Orcs and Goblin roster. So you're going to actually have a reason to take Night Goblins, because they're going to have their own kind of specific units. These rosters still are a little small, and one thing we do still need to kind of remember is that a lot of units are still going to be added that I don't currently have in the build that I'm showing you guys. So whereas like Ogres, if we take a look at their roster right now, very bare bones. I mean, almost like Wood Elf small. But they are going to get a lot more units by the time this is released. So these rosters, still are going to change. I think the Empire factions are pretty well fleshed out. I'm not really aware of many units they may add to them. But they pretty much are going to kind of stay the same as they are. They're I think, in my opinion, the most complete rosters. But we are going to see a lot more added to some of these other units. Skaven are going to get some cool units. I think Chaos Dwarves are getting a few cool units as well. So they're getting some flying units. Wood Elves are getting some really cool stuff as well. Let me take a look at the dwarf rosters. It does look like not a lot has changed. It looks like everything pretty much is still at the same price point. Iron Drakes. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much most of the video. A few things here, like the Chaos Warriors are pretty much the same. Like if you go to Slaanesh, it's going to be mostly Slaaneshi units. Some of the unit cards have changed as well. Some of the graphics, but there's the way. I guess the best thing I could compare this to is like the way these are in the game now is kind of pretty accurate in how the way that different Empire factions are work. So Khorne's going to be pretty much just Khorne. Tzeentch is just Tzeentch. These are pretty much finished, but Chaos is getting quite a few new units. They're getting some new Beastmen. They're getting Chaos Spawn. There's still a few others that I'm really not quite sure about. But anyway, guys, that was pretty much the video. This is the kind of highlights that I wanted to show you guys of some of the things that might make it to the 1.5 patch. Pretty certain that this era system is going to make it in there, so I just thought it might be fun for you guys to see what is coming and see some of the progress that has been made on the mod. This is what I'm really excited about, having all these different Empire factions and having kind of a new opportunity to develop new playstyles, because, if you take Reikland, it's like, oh man, they're taking Reikland. They've got, like, everything under the sun pretty much right now in the meta. But right now, now if you do this era system, you take Reikland, it's like, oh, he's taking Reikland, he's taking, an Empire faction that has the flying units, or, each one has a few of its strengths and weaknesses kind of highlighted in some of its unique units it has. So, but yeah, guys, anyway, I hope you guys like this video. I am going to be bringing out some more Call of Warhammer content very soon, and hopefully some more videos like this, some more kind of previews into what we're going to be seeing in 1.5. But anyway, guys, I'm Stan, and I hope you guys have a really great day, and I'll see y'all next time.